bidding at auction. Now, auctions are hotting up. We've got a few auctioneers here who are our trainers, and that's quite entertaining on a Monday in itself. We also have lots of friends and colleagues of the college that are very active auctioneers on the weekends, and the stories we're getting is that, you know, auctions are hotting up. Now, all over the COVID period, I said I wasn't going to say the word today. Anyway, all through the lockdown phase of our last couple of years, what we've been looking at is a lot of online auctions, a lot of different platforms, and that's been great. But, you know, auctioneers are now back out there strutting their stuff and doing what they do best. And what I specifically want to talk about today is the bidding on behalf of a telephone bidder. Now, we got a little bit better about this over the last 2 years, but Schedule 2 of the Property and Stock Agents Regulations in Part 1, Clause 8 in there, it actually talks about bidding on behalf of a telephone bidder. And it says that an agent must not bid at an auction on behalf of a person who's giving instructions to the agent by telephone unless the written authority from that prospective purchaser, the bidder, contains an acknowledgement that the person has been given a copy of the conditions that are applicable in respect of the sale, so the specific conditions about this sale, plus the bidder's guide, obviously, and that the agent is actually satisfied that that person has received that copy. So actually ask the question, you know, did you get all this? So when you're that doesn't mean that that's all you have to do. You still have to register that bidder. You still have to keep all their details on the bidder's record. Now, you're obviously doing that prior to the auction. You're not doing that at the same time that you're trying to manage who's coming into the auction, and, you know, whether you're in rooms or on site doesn't matter. You know, it's a busy time, and you're trying to talk to your prospective purchasers. You're trying to talk to your vendor. You know, there's a lot of things that are happening on the day of the auction or at the time of the auction. So, you know, you need to, in terms of the proof of identity for the bidder's record, that's out of the Property and Stock Regulations, and it's Clause 14 in there, that actually talks about the forms of proof of identity. And, you know, and obviously it's like everything else when we look at proof of identity. It's a card or a document that's issued from a government or some statutory authority in New South Wales, or any state, actually, any jurisdiction in Australia, or an authorised deposit-taking institution, so a bank or a building society, showing the name and address of the person. You know, and you know, it's a combination of cards or documents. You know, there's a whole different range, and you know, Clause 14 in the regs is very clear about that, and it goes through the whole range. If it's passports, if it's an overseas passport, if it's a motor license, sometimes if you know you're missing something, there might need to be a statutory declaration, which is showing the person's address. So now all of these relevant details need to be entered into the bidder's register for the auction of a property before the day of the auction, or, you know, and if that's all happening, or before the auction, and if that's all happening at a place other than at where the place the auction is being held, the person the bidder cannot be provided with the identifying number allocated for the purposes of identification. So bidder number 1, bidder number 12, bidder number 3, whatever. A lot of people go with, oh, what's your lucky number? Or just, here's your next number. That you can't allocate that unless you have finalised the person's identity. So if you've been through all of that process and it's the day before and you've got all of your identifying information, you've entered it all into the bidder's record, then yes, you can issue the number, the identifying number for auction, but not until after you have all of that information. So guys, as auctions are hotting up, and as you might be finding people who are in isolation because of whatever they're in isolation for, then, you know, it's time to make sure that your bidder's record is correct, that you are getting the right information, and that you have the written authority to be able to bid over the or take the bids over the telephone for that particular auction and for that particular prospective purchaser. So guys, hopefully that makes sense. But firstly, have a look at Clause 14 in the regs, have a look at Schedule 2 Part 1 and the Section 8, which is about bidding on behalf of telephone bidders. So it's all in there.